What is up, everybody? All right. So, today is all about the good old 251 licks. But before we get into that, again, I want to thank IK Multimedia for having me. This has been fun. We've been doing this right about every week, every Thursday at 3 o'clock. So if you enjoy this, we'll be back next Thursday. And next Thursday, we're going to be doing minor 251 licks. So I figure we're doing the 251 licks today in the major context, and then we'll do the 251 licks next Thursday in the minor context, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. I wanted to thank IK Multimedia for hooking me up with the iRig stream. This thing is awesome. This is how we're bringing you the broadcast today. If you don't have one, you might want to look into it, especially this new world of distancing. It doesn't seem to be ending anytime really soon. So this is the way to get your stuff out there while all this stuff is going on. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. What is a 2-5-1 progression to begin with? Let's start there. And some other things you're going to need to know are like the major scale and just a little bit about chords and harmony. You want to know like your diatonic seventh chords as well. So if you don't know some of that stuff, you don't know the major scale real well and the diatonic seventh chords, you might want to go back and check that out first before jumping into this one, all right? And also, before we get going, one more time, my handles are below. If you're enjoying this, feel free to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, all those fun social media pages or whatever, all right? So let's go right into it. So what's a 2-5-1 progression? A 2-5-1 progression is the second chord, the fifth chord, and then the root chord, the first chord, right, of the scale. If we're going to do it in C, it would be, D minor 7, G7, C major 7. We can move that to a bunch of different keys. Let's go circle of fifth. So let's do the key of G, right? We'd have A minor 7, right? D7 to G major 7. Right? And we can go on and go do it through a bunch of keys. Let's do one more. Let's do D. How about D? Then we'll do E, right? E minor 7, A to D major 7. So that is a 2-5-1, and it's super, super common. Once you start to play jazz, or it's in everything. It's in pop music. It's in a ton of stuff. So you're going to see this progression all the time, and you want to be able to have some pre-thought out ideas for this until you get good enough to just build them in your head as you go. Right? When you first start learning jazz, or you first start learning like this more contemporary music where you improvise and stuff, at first you want to have some some preloaded licks. Like, oh, this situation pops up, I'm going to play this. Right? You learn those, and then you start to see how they're structured so you can go ahead and make your own. So you can really develop your own vocabulary, your own sound based off of stuff that you know already sounds good. And there's licks that we all use and stuff. What is that? Adam Neely like that. The lick. That's not really a 2-5-1. I guess it could be a quick 2-5. Not really, but so you want to learn some preloaded licks and really dive into those licks. Don't just learn them and just learn to play them fast. Try to understand it. Try to get as much as you can from each little thing you learn. You want to learn from the lick, not just the lick itself, right? So the biggest thing we can do when we're starting to play 2-5-1s and build our own lines, once we've like kind of learned some real basic lines and everything, we want to really know about resolutions and the chord tones. So if you don't know what the chord tones are just the notes that make up the chord. The 1, right? The 3, the 5, and the 7 in this case, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, right? Now those are notes that you're going to want to target. Those are going to be the notes that are going to help you make a strong resolution when you're building your lines, right? The notes in the chord. the strongest notes that are going to make the strongest resolutions are the ones that are going to define the chord the best. So the two notes that you want to target before you that are going to make the strongest resolution are going to be your third and your seventh, because those are really going to define the chord. The root and the fifth, it doesn't really define the chord. You can still make resolutions to the root and the fifth, but they're not going to be as strong. But they do still sound fine. And the more specific you get, like say, like we'll get into, maybe I'll save that one for the next one. If you have like an altered five, sometimes resolving to that altered five sounds really good because it spells out the chords so specifically. Yeah, so let's check it out. Let's try to do some stuff here. I'm gonna go ahead and loop a little something for us. So we have a 2-5-1 little backing track here. So 1, 2. We'll do it in the key of C. C is always a good key for us guitar players and people who aren't playing horns, so we don't have to deal with all the sharps and flats and stuff, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. There we go. Turn it up just a little bit. Right? So first thing I would practice is make sure you see where those notes are. So we'd have so there are those really important notes right there. So we have, and if you see, we're making just very small movements there, right? So I'm going to stop that real quick. So I have here's the third and seventh of D minor, right? So F and C, and then we have F and B, and then we have E and B. So third and seventh of D minor 7. If you know some of your drop 2 voicings right there, it's like a second inversion, right? And then also, this is also where knowing the inversions comes in handy. The more you know the inversions, the more you're going to see the chord tones all over the neck. I actually, when I see the chord, when I hear the chords going through there, I always kind of think of like the inversions through the top strings, so I can kind of see where I want to go. But those are the notes you want to target. So let's come up with a couple lines. Let's just play a couple things here. So here, let's get this playing again. I'm actually going to add a little bit of rhythm here. Let's see if this helps me out here. Oh, I got a tempo thing right there. All right. 2, 3, 4. Right? Then we go. So, in that particular case, let's do a little more straightforward one. Let's do something super diatonic without any sort of diminished or melodic minor stuff in there. Just something really just jumping on chord tones. Do that again. The 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, and that's super diatonic. You probably wouldn't want to play something that boring, but it gets to the crux of the matter here, right? It gets to the main point that we're doing. We're targeting chord tones, right? And we're targeting them on beat 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Just something basic like that. So I got to started on the 7th of D minor, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and got to the 3rd of G, B, then went 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1, got to the 3rd of C, E. I threw the 9 in there. All right, that's just super basic, kind of boring sound. I'm just kind of getting to the chord tones in the right time. But that's the main idea here, is to make those strong resolutions on strong beats. Beat 1 is going to be a strong, because you can also resolve on the and of 4. It's like anticipate. You like anticipate a little bit. You would maybe hold it out. Probably you wouldn't want to try to resolve on the and 4 and then go to a different note. You want to probably hold it out. Excuse me. Right? So, and then we can get kind of all over the place with these lines. So the biggest things we can do first, without jumping into too many, substitutions or outside scales, is we can just start to approach those chord tones, right? I know I used to hear, I've definitely done some like Charlie Christian stuff and Grant Green stuff that has that kind of stuff in there, where they're just like, they'll just outline literally the chord tones with a half step, right? Or a tie. Let's check that out with the chart. With the next time we'll try to get charts up here. With our loop. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Just hitting those chord tones is going to allow you to play more chromatic stuff and more outside sounding stuff, because you're coming back to such a strong home base to like, oh, that's definitely what the chord is, right? You can get really do maybe something in another position. Right? Right, and that was kind of double time. Or triplet feel. Right, got to all the different chord tones there. And then we can anticipate. That's a pretty common thing you'll hear. That we'll talk about some enclosures too. So if you heard right before I started that last lick, I went triple at 1, and I got right to that third of that D minor. That's a sorry, hitting a little too hard. I gotta watch the dynamics on here. I got right to that third, and it sounds good. Like most of the time, this line. Right, it's like, oh, that's not really in the scale. No, only there's a couple. That note's not diatonic. Why does that work? Well, why it works is because we got to this chord tone so strong, and right on beat 1. You can play a lot of things out and get away with it if you get to the strong chord tones in time. You can also do. Right, that's a pretty good tie. Triple at 1. Da, 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 da. I'm gonna try to keep everything in C, so we can just keep it. And I'll try not to move too many positions. I know that gets confusing for some people, so we'll try to keep it mostly in the 2 really comfy positions here for C. So another thing we can do are those ties. Right? We tie into the chord tones. Now let's listen to one where I'm going to tie. I'm going to tie into the 5th of D. So A. We're going to tie into A. We'll go. That's actually something we're going to talk about too. Right after we do this is playing the changes without the chords and still hearing the changes. But let's go ahead and do this first. There we go. right? We'll tie it into the fifth again from maybe over here. And now we don't always have to do a triplet. Let's do 4 and 1. Time. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Got a little too worried about making the changes there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So there's a bunch of cool ways that we can start to build our lines, and then you can add those little things going into your lines, those little different ornamentations to start your lines, right? On a triplet ones is a really good common one. You see that. We talked about that. Da, 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 da. Now, if you notice as I was playing, you could really hear where I was in the changes. It didn't you weren't like, oh, where is the 2 and the 5 and the 1? I'm lost in the progression. That's a really great way to practice, and that's how you should really practice your lines. And see if you can really hear the chords while you're improvising or through your lines. That's going to be the strongest stuff that you can play, right? If you can hear everything, all the chords through your improvising, then you're playing really well. You're making the changes really well. It's a good thing. It's a great thing to practice. My teacher used to have us do eighth notes, do like straight eighth notes. I wasn't a great example. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And you can always tighten that up and get it better. That's the great thing about music, right? You go back and you try, and you go back and you check out things with a different sensibility, or now that you're a little better, you're a little bit stronger on your instrument, you're stronger in different ways than you weren't before, and you go back and you check out some stuff you improve on, right? So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about with 2-5-1s, how to make them. And the other thing I would work on is the short 2-5-1. Right? And so the context of 2-5-1 we've been using right now has been here, let me play it for you. It's been 1 bar of 2, 1 bar 2, 1 bar 5, 2 bars of 1. Right? Now a short 2-5 is only going to be 2 bars. So it's going to be half a bar of D, right? Half a bar of G, and then 1 full bar of C. So let me erase that. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a perfectionist. Let's fix that real quick. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So you're gonna have to apply the same thing now, just in a shorter amount of time. So the strong beats now are gonna be on beat 1, we're going to want to play a chord tone for D. On beat 3, a chord tone for G. Let's take out the 13th for G. And then on the next bar, that's when we're going to come in with our C major 7 chord tone, whether it's B, G, or E. All right, so let's check it out. I'm going to let it play a couple times, and we're going to just go right through it. So. There we go. Right, so that's an easy one. 1 and 2 and There you go. Yeah. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right. We can even just go right up. That'll even make the changes pretty well. 1 and 2 and probably want to go move that to here. 2, 3, 4. There you go. Right, so as I'm going, let's dissect that a little bit. So I'm starting on the 5th, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. We're back over that C major 7 chord. Right, and we can come up with a bunch of different quick 2/5s. There you go. That's a good one. Let's listen to that one. 3, 4. That's an easy one. A lot of ties in there. Right. 2, 3. How about another one? Just all eighth notes. 3, 4. And that one resolves well. If you listen, I actually stopped on the end of 4 there. 1 and 2. I honestly was purposely doing that so we could talk a little bit about this too. So the strong beat 1, if you're holding out the note before, it's almost like you resolve just before them. So I went 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Right? So guys, try to take some of these cool concepts we talked about today and apply them to your playing. This is like some good fundamental stuff on how to build lines. You know, look for those strong chord tones. Don't be afraid to play notes that aren't diatonic to get to those strong chord tones. And, look for those strong beats for good resolutions. Thank you again, IK, for having me. And again, we'll be back next week, next Thursday, same time, same bad place, same bad channel. Thanks again for hooking me, guys. If you guys haven't checked it out, check out the iRig stream. And if you're with us still, I just released some new music on Spotify and Apple Music. It's on all major streaming platforms. If you want to check out online, it's the Ricca Project. My band handle is right there, and you can pull it up on Spotify, Apple Music. I think it's even on places like SoundCloud and stuff. It's like all over the place. So check it out. It's called the Melody Av Sessions, and keep practicing, guys. I'm gonna go practice too. Take care.